Good morning, everyone. Pete Pardo here. Welcome to another edition of What's Hot with Sea of Tranquility. Today, we're going to take a look at the brand new release from one of the most prolific bands on the modern progressive rock scene. We're talking about Sweden's The Flower Kings. Islands is the name of the brand new album. And yes, you see that correctly. That is a cover art design from none other than Mr. Roger Dean. So this album released October 30th on insideoutmusic. Ironically, you would think, like in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic, that, and as we've seen, a lot of bands and musicians and artists have struggled to put albums together, to release albums when they originally planned on it, but that hasn't stopped roinestolt and the Flower Kings. They actually recorded this entire double album remotely, none of them in the same rooms or studios, right? So all the different parts created and put together by each of the band members, done from their homes, from their home studios, put together by Roina, and a double album. Okay, so think about that. So probably not the easiest thing to do, but in the hands of these guys, anything is possible. And this album, not even a year after the release of their previous album, which was called Waiting for Miracles, which came out in November of 2019. So just under a year, they crank out another double album. These guys are no strangers to double albums, right? So let's take a look here. So again, we've got the wonderful Roger Dean artwork there. Okay, there's all the songs. One thing you'll notice, if you look at that really quickly, not a lot of big, epic tracks. All right, so actually there are a lot of shorter songs here on this album, 21 to be exact. Okay, and while somewhat of a concept album, islands, everybody on an island these days, so to speak, right? The album flows pretty good. Let's take a look here, just look at all of the artwork. Let's open up the booklet. Yeah, like I said, these guys are no strangers to epic, lengthy double albums. And this one, it follows along right there in line with a lot of what they've done. It sounds like a Flower Kings album, but you don't get these 15, 20, 25, 30-minute long tracks. You get a lot of shorter songs here. All which, if you listen to it through and through, it all sounds like it's from the same album. There's a lot of little musical bits and things here that kind of continue along as you listen. Here's the band today, 2020. roinestolt on vocals, electric and acoustic guitars, ukulele, and additional keyboards. You've got Hasse Froberg on vocals and acoustic guitars. You've got Jonas Reingold, the great Jonas Reingold, on electric and acoustic bass, acoustic guitar. You have Zach Kamens on pianos, organ, mini moog, synthesizers, mellotron, and orchestrations. You've got Mirko De Meo on drums, tambourines, shakers, congas, bells, assorted percussion, and special guest on one track. You got Rob Townsend on soprano saxophone on the song called Serpentine. Okay, so like I mentioned, a lot of material on here. This is roughly 90 minutes of music, right? So lot to take in. This is not an album that you're going to put on and digest in one sitting. You have to kind of listen to this a few times. As with a lot of double albums, okay, a lot of songs. Some songs kind of almost like segue into the next sort of thing. You get some musical themes which kind of reappear throughout the album, but it's a Flower Kings album. Surprisingly enough, considering the way the album was recorded and the fact that these guys weren't all in the same studios together, very cohesive sounding. Okay, it doesn't really sound like a bunch of musicians in a band who are all over the world in their homes recording their parts. It's really cohesive. It flows very, very well. Some standout tracks for me, Black Swan and Morning News, really pleasing. The album is very melodic, as always the case with these guys. Journeyman, spectacular. Tangerine and Solaris, these are all on the first disc here. Really, really good. And I think the longest song you've got here on disc 1 is Solaris at 9 minutes and change. So that's the longest piece we have, and I believe that is the longest track on the entire album. Yes, it is. Okay, so think about that for a second. A Flower Kings album where you don't have any songs over 10 minutes. You don't get that too often, right? Over on disc 2, Northern Lights, Serpentine, which we mentioned before, really good. It's got a nice jazzy slant to it. I love Telescope. Fool's Gold is really good. Islands, the final track, is an instrumental, which kind of ends the whole album, but it's a shorter piece, 4 minutes and 12 seconds. You know, you get the soaring vocals between both Hasse Froberg and roinestolt. Okay, they both take turns singing on the album. A lot of really good keyboards. All right, I mentioned all of the different ones that are played on here. So you've got, Hammond organ and mini Moog and lots of Mellotron. It's very symphonic. Lots of roinestolt angular lead electric guitar work. Lots of acoustic textures on here. The drums and percussion is tight and, holds everything together here. At times they go for a little bit of bombast. I think the one thing I did notice when going through this album is that it's not quite as overblown and bombastic as a lot of Flower Kings albums are or tend to be. There is that here, of course, because it wouldn't be a Flower Kings album without it. But some of these songs are a little tighter from an arrangement perspective, relying less on all these long, lengthy solos, but there are plenty of them, and there's some really cool, like unison bits going on between the keyboards and the guitars and the bass, and Jonas's bass is wonderful as always throughout this album. He brings like a real fusion, like a jazz fusion feel to a lot of these tracks, which I kind of dig. I don't mind the Flower Kings moving into kind of, little jazz fusion directions here and there, which is kind of nice. A lot of good pop melodies throughout this album too. So I think, as far as a really strong, long, symphonic, progressive rock album here in 2020. Good stuff, right? And I do dig the Roger Dean artwork here. It's funny, before I had not heard that he was working on the cover art for this album, and then when I got this, I was like, "Oh, that looks Roger Dean-ish," and then I found out that it actually was Roger Dean. So how could it not be, right? Because Roger loves doing these like floating mountains and things like that. So very, very cool. And you've got, like I said, you got the band. I guess that's the band there, or could be the band on the island. All right. And I think, like I said, the concept here is all about, kind of coincides with what's going on today. We're all in our own little islands these days based on what's happening out there in the world. But you got Racing, I'll read the track list. Racing with Blinders On, From the Ground, Black Swan, Morning News, Broken, Goodbye Outrage, Journeyman, Tangerine. I don't know if I mentioned Tangerine before. Wonderful song. Solaris, Heart of the Valley, and Man in a Two-Piece Suit. And then over on disc 2, you've got All I Need Is Love, A New Species, Northern Lights, Hidden Angels, Serpentine, Looking for Answers, Telescope, Fool's Gold, Between Hope and Fear, and culminating, finished in the album, Islands, the instrumental. So quite good. I'm just amazed at how prolific this band has been over the years. They've got so many albums, so much material. Mr. Stolt is just, he is a fountain of musical creativity. And we just heard the news this morning that a new Transatlantic album is coming out in February. So, of course, Roine is involved in that as well. So, never a dull moment in roinestolt land, right? No matter which band it is he's working on. So, check it out. If you dig this band, I think you'll love this. It's falls right in line with everything they've done. This band has just released one gem after another for the last 25 years or so. So, visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. If you like what you see, please do help us out a bit and click on that Ko-Fi link below in the video description. Buy us a coffee, a tea, a mug of beer, or whatever you like. Whatever you can do is greatly appreciated. We also have the link to our merch page if you want to get a Sea of Tranquility shirt, t-shirt, or hoodie, or a coffee mug, or a sticker, or a hat, baseball hat, cap for the wintertime. We got all sorts of stuff there, so check it out. A couple different designs. We got our main logo, some new fun Roger Deanish theme type stuff. So check all that stuff out, and order whatever you like. Everything is greatly appreciated, anything you guys can do. So we'll see you real soon. So it is Monday, so coming up tonight, all right, Monday night is always busy night here on the channel. We've got the Hudson Valley Squares joining me once again for a very cool topic tonight. We're each going to talk about our 3 favorite hard rock and heavy metal vocalists of all time. So that's coming up tonight with the Hudson Valley Squares. And Chris Allo will be sticking around for another show with me as well. And he and I are going to rank the studio albums from symphonic power metal legends Nightwish. So that's coming up tonight as well. So don't miss out on any of that. And there's more stuff happening all the rest of this week. So stay tuned, all right? And we'll see you all real soon. Take care. Bye-bye.